Good evening, everybody. How are y'all? Good. Excited to be here, right? I think I know most of you, but my name is Leslie Butler. I am the assistant principal at Mount Vernon Middle School. And as you can imagine, in my line of work, I every day see the negative side of technology and cell phones. It definitely has its benefits, but every day I see how it is affecting our student. So because of that, I am super thankful for our counseling team who has put together this wonderful presentation tonight. They've been working with Sheriff Ricky Jones on this for a little while to bring us two amazing, knowledgeable speakers tonight to help keep our students safe. And when I say that, because I'm also here tonight as a parent. I have a 6th grade son and 2 4th grade daughters. And because I've seen so many things in my line of work, I am super protective and want to do everything I can to keep them safe, like I know y'all do too. So our first speaker is Miss Lindsay Rail, and she is a survivor of human trafficking, and she will be followed by DPS Officer Philip Alston. We also have our MVISD Technology Department here to share with you ways that you can monitor and set boundaries on your students' phones, computers, anything they may have access to. And at the end of the evening, we will also have a few minutes for questions and answers. If you did not sign in whenever you came, please make sure you sign in at the back. Students, we will have a drawing tomorrow. We'll announce the winner during our announcements. Thank you to Brookshires and Sonic for the gift cards they provided, and for communities and schools for their partnership with this program as well. So I'm going to hand it over to the sheriff.
How y'all doing? Good. This is an issue that's been, I guess, not near and dear to my heart, but it's been on my mind for a while. This past July, I was president up till July of last year of the Texas Sheriff's Association. And in my travels across the countries, I realized how prevalent of an issue this is everywhere. And then when I get back to my hometown and I see the cases that we're working in Mount Vernon, Texas, I decided once I get through with this presidency and I got time, I've got to start doing something to inform my citizens in my county of the dangers of cell phones, online gaming, and those platforms if they're left unchecked. You know, we don't allow strangers into our home. Somebody comes to your house and knocks on the door, you turn them away and you call 911 and say you got an idiot at the door. You know, but you hand your kid a phone and you send them to their bedroom, and every idiot in the world has access to them. You just gave them the key to your house. It's a generic key that is left unchecked in most homes. And we've got to stop that. We've got to become parents. We've got to look out for the interests of our kids. Don't let them carry their phones to their rooms. They can get everything done before they go to bed and leave their phone in the living room, charge them so it'll be ready for them the next morning. There's just a lot of little things we can do to protect our children. You know, we always say they're our future, but they're also the most important thing we've got to protect now for our future. So when I was in Washington, D.C. at the National Sheriff's Association Midwinter Conference, met this lady here, Lindsay Rail. She sat there, had cake and ice cream, I think, and visited for quite a while, and come to find out, she's from the Denton area. And I'll let her explain what all she's involved in because she's a busy lady. Matter of fact, when she gets here, she's got to go back to Fort Worth. So, Lindsay, if you'll come on up, Lindsay Rail.
Hello, everybody. I'm thinking about, I'm probably just going to sit on this stage, as long as that doesn't mess the mic up. Okay, cool. It's a little bit, there's a small crowd, I don't know, it feels intimate. But, okay, and I'm also going to read, even though I've said this a million times, I never really know where I'm going to cry, but I probably will cry at least once. So it's just easier for me to keep track of what I'm saying if I'm reading it. So here's my story. I just wanted to start by saying it's always weird speaking about this and seeing the reactions that people have. I'm not a victim, and anyone who knows me in real life knows that I am definitely not. But when I do this and I get a reaction, sometimes I feel like one, and that's really strange for me. But then I realize that it's complicated to interact with someone who's been through something so horrific. I'm always told how brave I am, and I'll tell you that I don't feel brave. I feel like I was forced to make a choice. Something happened to me out of my control. There's a chair. Thank you. A really tiny chair. Something happened to me that was out of my control, and what I had control over was deciding if I wanted to stay broken or I wanted to move past it. It's not bravery or stubbornness. It's an unwillingness to allow those guys that did something awful to me to determine who I'm going to be and if I'm going to enjoy my life that I was given or if I'm going to live miserable. To give you a little background on myself, I got connected to this conference initially through an ankle monitoring business that I own that changes the game in monitoring services by providing 24/7 proactive monitoring to violent offenders. I own several other businesses. I live in a suburb of Dallas, Texas, and I am on city council serving my city. I have a 7-year-old son who is the light of my life, and I just hit 5 years sober from drugs and alcohol on May 23rd of this year. I have a degree in psychology. Thank you. It wasn't easy. I have a degree in psychology, and I'm a licensed addictions counselor. I'm an active volunteer in my community, helping those in need. And I'm currently working at an agency to become a private investigator, so I can help individuals in trafficking situations such as the one that I was in. I'm actually working with the guy who found me, which is really cool. He was like, "You're the only one that came back and wanted to work in this after being trafficked." I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" I don't know. I'm hard-headed. I was born July 22nd, 1994, in the planned love child of Rick and Cheryl Brown. My parents are still together, and to this date, I've never seen them have an argument. I was raised in the suburbs most of my life on a golf course with maids and breakfast served to me in bed before school. I attended a Christian church where I actively participated and opted to wear a purity ring to signify that I was saving myself until marriage. As a teen, I never tried drugs or alcohol, and I was a stranger to both my local police and my principal. I made straight A's in all advanced classes. My mother monitored my devices, drug tested me regularly, wouldn't let me sleep over at any friends' houses, and had me in many extracurricular activities. And despite all of this, I was a victim of sex trafficking. You may wonder how this happened. Christmas of 2008, I received a laptop, which my mother planned to load the monitoring software on, but unfortunately, before she was able to do that, I went into a forum called thescenekids.org, as many kids my age were doing, and I met a charming boy by the name of Johnny. I have since looked up this website, and many Reddit posts talk about how amazing it was, so clearly my experience was not the common experience for this website. Being a teenage girl obsessed with true love and romance, I was easy to manipulate. Johnny would spend the next year calling me on a pay-as-you-go phone that my parents didn't know about. If at that time something like Snapchat would have been accessible to me, it would have made it 100 times worse. And 100 times easier for this man to groom me, but we had to stick with old-fashioned burner phones. He was always very clear about the fact that if my parents ever knew about him, it would ruin everything because they wouldn't approve of us. He didn't lie to me about being an adult. He had told me that he was in his early 20s, so that was okay. He would call me on that burner phone at midnight on an unknown number so that I would grow to become dependent on those late-night calls, because if I didn't answer, I didn't get to talk to him. Over the year, he would convince me to do risky things like taking my mom's lingerie and sending him pictures. He convinced me to take nice things from my parents and mail them to him. He also encouraged me, he was encouraging me to feel comfortable doing things that I would never have done before this incident. He slowly took advantage of fights with my friends and little insecurities, training me to believe that I was completely unlovable. He would explain to me how I was always wrong in every fight and how fights were indicators that my friends didn't like me. He would listen to me talk and pick out parts where he could slowly turn me against my friends and family. Over this year, I would isolate, morphing into a hermit, only fixated on the one person I believed cared for me or could care for me at all. He transitioned into disappearing for days, telling me that he couldn't stand how awful my personality was, but then coming back on account of how madly in love he was with me, despite my glaring character defects. At this point, I was hooked. One summer, my mom took me to LA because I was a child actor at that time. And during this trip, Johnny planned a meetup with me at Starbucks down the street from where my mom and I were renting a room. I walked down to finally meet him in person. I was so excited. We spent over an hour talking and making out. Then my mom, wondering where I was, came looking for me. She nearly caught us at this point, but this event only sealed the deal on my addiction to this man. He was a very good kisser and the second human I'd ever kissed. I still wonder, had my mom not come searching, would that have been the moment when he took me? Instead, back in Dallas, the night came that my mother chose to pick a fight with me. Funny enough, the fight was over a boy my age who I had met through friends. I'd started to turn my attention to him openly, and my mom didn't approve of it. She didn't know that he was the one thing distracting me from true danger. His name was Aaron, and I would go on to date him when I came back home. He actually turned out to be an okay guy. On my midnight call with Johnny that night, I already knew what I wanted. I packed my bags, I stole my mom's debit card and her keys to her car. She reports that she felt something was off because I went into her bedroom, and even though we had not been getting along, I hugged her tight and I told her I loved her. Johnny offered me an opportunity for a new life with him, and I took it. I waited until everyone was asleep. I wrote down his address, buckled in my stuffed koala named Sam into the passenger seat, and took the Toyota Highlander from the driveway. I burnt a CD with a lot of rap songs I normally wasn't allowed to listen to. I had the basics of driving down, as I was now just 15 and had my permit. With these limited skills and a paper map purchased at gas stations in each state, I somehow made my way from Denton, Texas to San Bernardino, California. I remember listening to rap, drinking Monster, and screaming curse words because these were all things I wasn't allowed to do at home. I felt free, but this story is a clear indicator of how immature I was. With a supposed bolo, which is like when they send to the other police stations that someone's missing and they should be looking for them, out, I drove next to an officer for many miles. Many miles. I even successfully made it through Border Patrol when I entered California, driving as a 15-year-old with a stuffed animal in the side seat. And absolutely no one was looking for me. I went through Border Patrol. Like, that's crazy. During my 24-hour drive, my parents awoke to their precious baby girl missing. My mom called the police only to be told there was nothing that could be done at that time. The officer told her I was a typical bad kid that ran away from home. She insinuated that she recognized my name as one of the bad kids she had run-ins with regularly, and I can attest that there's no way that's true. My parents were so confused at how this could happen because I had such bad anxiety that I wouldn't go to the bathroom alone when we ate at restaurants. My mother asked if they could report the car stolen, and the officer at that time told her that because they had allowed me to drive it previously while practicing with my permit, that they couldn't consider the vehicle stolen. My mom attempted to hand the card that she had recently purchased with my fingerprints and my DNA on it to the officer, as she was in shock and just grasping at straws, and the officer told her that they would need that later when they recovered my body. They agreed to put out that bolo that I was talking about earlier, which the FBI later let my mom know that they never actually did, and typically don't do, or they don't reference them in these cases. My parents hired a detective that the police recommended for $3,000, and while searching for through my room, my brother found where I'd written down the address I was going to, and that professional that they were referred to told them that he had already found the guy and it wasn't at that address. If they had flown and arrived at that address at that time, they would have been at that house before I arrived. He sent my parents to the address he found, which was in a cracked out part of LA far from where I was. My parents sat outside of that address all night. My dad even took a taser and went up into the building to see if he could hear or see me. This professional just put my parents in a bunch of danger without helping me at all. They also interrogated my friends at school. Most of them tried to lie to cover for me. And finally, one of my friends explained to them what was actually going on. This triggered my sister to do research on investigators who specialize in trafficking cases, and that's when she found Logan Clark, the man I work for today. When I arrived, I was kept in a trunk of a car for the majority of the 3 days I was gone. I was fed random bags of chips, but I stayed pretty hungry. I was lucky for this span of time because most girls are out of the country in less than 48 hours or dead. They would take me out periodically and provide me to a group of men who would take turns with me. And this is how I lost my virginity. Once I was used up and covered in all kinds of liquids, sometimes even my own vomit, depending on how hard they went, they would shower me off and I would go back into storage. We would later find out that this particular group specialized in young adults, so I was actually an unusual victim for them. They colored my hair black to prepare me to cross the border. According to the emails, the private investigators found that I was to be routed to a facility in Guadalajara, Mexico, where I would be hooked onto heroin so that I would go into withdrawals if I ever tried to escape from my new owners. The investigators also found many vulgar pictures of me, which they were able to trace to who they were sent to and to extinguish from the internet. Thankfully, my parents found Logan Clark, who for $15,000 was able to locate me. Turns out the woman who had colored my hair was able to be paid off and gave them my location and when I was set to be shipped out. Just as my face was set to hit national news, my parents were advised to cancel the Amber Alert. When an Amber Alert is issued for a child who was taken for trafficking, it's common for the traffickers to just slit the child's throat and throw them in a ditch because they then are a liability. By noon on the third day, Logan coordinated a bust. I remember his guys rushing at me. I remember them taking me to Chick-fil-A, and most of all, I remember feeling nothing. I went home to Texas in handcuffs because I had Stockholm Syndrome pretty bad from the year of grooming. I was set on running away and getting back to Johnny, whether it made sense or not. When I arrived home, it wasn't too a warm welcome. My parents were traumatized. My school saw me as too much of a liability to accept me back. I would continuously try to steal people's phones to call him or try to find a way to contact him. I was hard to manage. I had a counselor. It was a little old lady named Gay Roper, who honestly just gave me assessments every time I met with her. I don't think many people really know enough about this kind of traumatic experience to help much, and the people with this kind of trauma so often don't get well enough themselves to ever help anybody else. Mostly due to most therapists coddling people with trauma rather than challenging them to get better. At home, I had no freedom and no privileges, and I was so lonely. The only people who wanted to hang out with me were the kids who wanted to learn how to run away just like I did. My old friend's parents would no longer let them hang out with the bad kid who ran away, even the friend who lied to the police. The unfortunate part is that this treatment validated everything Johnny had told me. I was bad, I was unlovable, and I was alone. Okay. For many years, I held a lot of shame. I held shame for how I scared my parents, shame for making bad choices, shame for the fact that against my will, I would have an insane physical reaction of fear in the vicinity of any Hispanic male. This was the strangest one, and for a while I felt so sick because I thought I had turned racist against my will. And it's not that I would treat anybody different, but the physical reaction that I had was just really intense. It's interesting because for a while after the incident, while the delusion of Stockholm Syndrome was still upon me, I only wanted to hang out with Hispanic males. And then suddenly, things changed one day out of nowhere, and a lot of my mental health symptoms improved, but my body was terrified. This incident also changed how I viewed my own body. For some years after that, I was very promiscuous, sleeping with men often and dissociating badly in the process. So sex became a bargaining chip instead of something intimate. Finally, I went to Smart Recovery and got control of my sex addiction that I was experiencing and the objectification of myself. Now, as I stated before, I'm a mom, I'm an elected official in my city, I'm a homeowner, I'm a business owner, I'm a therapist, and most importantly, I'm happy, and I'm supported, and I know I'm lovable because I'm loved. What I want you to get out of this most is that I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't coming from poverty or a bad home. I had a loving, attentive family, and I wasn't just snatched off the street. The system failed me, and when you come home from an event like this, it doesn't end there. There's so little education about this that the whole world fails you. So I urge you, while you're here and you have the resources, to take advantage of the education and the community so that maybe when you meet someone like me in the future, you'll have more tools in your toolkit. Thank you.
Lindsay's gonna stay here, and after, next gentleman I'm gonna introduce gets through, they're gonna come back up and be available for questions. Next gentleman I have here is, Phil Austin. He's with DPS CID out of Mount Pleasant. He and I have worked together on some cases of this sort over the past couple of years, and so I'm gonna turn it over to him for now.
And like the sheriff said, I'm out of Mount Pleasant CID. Mostly what I'm responsible for are crimes against children that have a technological nexus. So he called me last week and asked me if I would come up here and speak to y'all tonight. You know, I've spent the last week trying to determine what I wanted to talk about tonight, what would be my goal, and what would be, you know, the one thing that I wanted to accomplish. And I think it's to answer a question. So before I answer that question, I'm gonna go back. I graduated high school here. I'm not sure if anybody knows that, but you know, one thing repeatedly that I heard when I grew up was, it doesn't happen in Mount Vernon. It doesn't happen here. It's a good school. It's a small town. We don't have to worry about that. So the question I want to answer is what I get all the time. People know I work for the state. People know what I do for a living. They always ask me, is it happening in my town? And so that's the question I want to answer tonight. Is it happening in my town? I'm going to present a case here in a minute. This case happened, it started in 2022 and it ended in 2024. And that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. But before I start, I want to let y'all know this presentation will be easier on me and it'll probably be easier on y'all if there's some participation. So there's going to be a couple spots in here where I'm going to ask y'all to participate if you wouldn't mind. If y'all wouldn't mind joining in. I clicked on it like that. It's not a good start. Here we go. So the first thing I'm going to ask y'all is a question. What happened in 2020? About February or March of 2020? COVID. What do you think happened in COVID? Besides everybody getting sick, what else happened? Go ahead, buddy. Kids went online. So guess what we did as a nation? We paid everybody to stay home. We gave them the internet, and they didn't have any place to go for 3 years. And what do you think they did for those 3 years? They stayed online. If you look here in 2023, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they received more than 36 million online cyber tips. So what we do and what a cyber tip is, it's basically a nonprofit organization that patrols the internet, and they alert law enforcement to complaints that have been hashed out online. They search the internet for child pornography and things related to sexual abuse. They compile them in these reports and they report them to us. You can see there, 360% increase over the last 10 years. And in my opinion, it's mostly due to COVID. And the last thing I wanted to point out here, if you see there, 87%, that number was taken in 2023. Think about with the additions of AI in the last 2 years, and then the availability of the internet just increases every day. So I guarantee you that number's larger. So this is the part where I'm going to need everybody to participate. I want everybody in here to close your eyes, and I'm going to call on a couple people. Close your eyes, and I want you to think about the childhood predator. What comes to your mind when you think of a childhood predator? It's the guy you see on TV. It's the guy that Chris Hansen talks about. It's the guy that you grew up fearing. Now I want you to open your eyes, and I'm going to call on a couple people. I want you to tell me what's the first thing that comes to your mind. I'm going to ask you. Yeah, you look like you know. A big old-fashioned van. Big white van, no windows, no markings, candy inside. Somebody else have a different view? Yes, ma'am.
The neighbor 2 doors down.
The neighbor's what?
The neighbor 2 doors down.
The neighbor 2 doors down. Yes, ma'am.
Football coach.
Football coach. Sandusky. You know, that's burned into everybody's mind. So those are the things that we think about when we think about these predators. You know, I'm sorry for the kids, but Chester the molester, that's what you grow up thinking. It's the guy that has the van. It's the guy that's creepy. It's the guy that rubs your shoulders at the restaurant, that always has candy, that wants to take you out to play. But I'm telling you, that's no more. That's not the playground anymore. The playground now is right here. Online grooming is quickly replacing traditional grooming. The playground now is their phone. And it might not seem as dangerous because they can't grab you through the phone, but I'm going to tell you why it's more dangerous. When you're at the park, Mom, that van, when you're at the park, your kids are playing, that white van shows up with no windows on it. He's got ice cream truck music blaring. First thing that crosses your mind is, nope. Right? And that guy knows that. He can't walk up to you at the park now. There's cameras everywhere. There's phones everywhere. He can't just walk up to you, because if he walks up to you and tries to take your kid, you call the cops. You report it. It's dangerous. It's high risk, low reward. Online grooming, 10 minutes. Makes a Gmail, makes an account, goes surfing. Find somebody, I reach out to you, say, hey, what are you doing? If you say, don't talk to me, you're a grown up, delete that account, make a new one, on to the next one. No risk till we come in. But initially, there's no risk. So he can throw out large lines, large nets. He can cast it, he can fish all day and almost operate anonymously. I guess I gotta stand around it, don't fall off. Alright, so online solicitation of minor, that's basically what I'm talking about in this presentation. That's when an adult reaches out, they find someone that's less than 18 years of age, and they use the internet or they use messaging services to talk about sexual conduct or to exchange sexually explicit material with these minors. So what we're going to start with is right here. Predators will utilize all types of social media. I put these up here because everybody in the room needs to take out your phone right now. You need to take a picture of this. And I'm fixing to tell you why. This top left one, who knows what that is?
Roblox, Minecraft.
Roblox.
Minecraft.
Who knows what this big one is on the bottom? It just had a movie. Minecraft. The kids in here, who knows what that one is?
Discord.
Oh, that's not good. You know what that is. You know what this is? Snapchat. So, in the last probably 3 years, I've worked probably 20 to 25 cases that involve the sexual exploitation of children, usually 12 to 15-year-old female victims. Anybody want to take a stab on how they met their suspect, their victimizer? They went on Discord and they went to an online chat group that talked about Minecraft and that talked about Roblox. They go in there unwittingly and they go to talk to their friends about, I don't play Minecraft, but whatever blocks you play with the Minecraft, they go there and talk about that. And then you have these predators which know they're in there and they find these girls and they start victimizing them. The last one, the one we're about to talk about, she was in a Discord group for Minecraft, and she made the unfortunate mistake of putting an actual picture of herself as her profile picture on Discord. So he went into this chat group, he started cruising, and by his own admission, he sees this profile picture. He sees she's young, she's blonde, she's pretty, he's attracted to her. And the first thing he does is sends a message to her and starts talking to her about Minecraft. And then he moves her to Snapchat, and then he moves her to cell phone. So, we let our kids play Minecraft, and they play Roblox, but they play Minecraft. It's disconnected from the internet, they don't have an account, and they can play locally on their own iPad. Because I'm telling you, it has the ability to talk to other people. There's chat rooms associated with it, and there's online chatting during gameplay. And that's what these people go to hunt. This gentleman right here, his name's, and this is the question that I'm going to answer for y'all. Does it happen in Mount Vernon? Guess where he's from? Mount Vernon. He's probably 27 years old now, so he graduated maybe 10 years ago from Mount Vernon High School. On January 12th, the sheriff called me. Was the subject of an investigation that involved a child that was missing from Cincinnati, Ohio. Mr. Arzola, like I said, had gotten on Discord and had met this female victim and talked to her for approximately 2 months. And then on January 8th, he got the bright idea to drive to Cincinnati, well, let me pause back. On December 15th, he got the bright idea to drive to Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay? So I'll put a little bit of a timeline on here. I'm not going to harp on it too much because we're going to move on. But just so you have an idea of how fast these things can move. He meets her, I want to say it was in November of 2022, and by December 15th, he had already loaded up in his car in Mount Vernon, and he had headed to Cincinnati, Ohio. So the ruse that Mr. Arzola made, he created, and this is what I want to touch on with AI, using some kind of AI platform. He took a picture of his actual driver's license, and he had AI manipulate his driver's license to change the name on it, to change the birth date on it, and to slightly alter his appearance. And he was purporting himself to be a 16-year-old instead of a 26-year-old. He told the victim how old she was, but they had to trick them off. On the 15th, him and the victim, they make the plan for him to come to Ohio, and he he stays in Ohio from December 15th until December about 30th without the mom's knowledge. He's at an Airbnb about 2 blocks away from the mom's house. And during the day, the girl's homeschooled because of COVID. During the day, she's sneaking off to his Airbnb where he's sexually assaulting her. And the mom thinks she's at school doing or at home doing her schoolwork. The mom has no idea he's in town. So we fast forward to the 30th, or to the 28th, somewhere in the 28th, 29th, somewhere in there. The mom agrees to let Arzola come over to the house. They create this elaborate ruse where he's 16 years old, they have the same birthday, and Arzola, all he wants for his Christmas present is to be able to meet the victim who he's in a relationship with. The mom tries to do her best, she vets him, she gets pictures of his ID, she does what she thinks is right. She sees that he's 16 years old, doesn't know he's 26, invites him over to the house. And so they actually spend Christmas and New Year's together at her house. On December 31st, he returns to Texas, and within 8 days, he's realized that he can't live without her and she can't live without him. He returns on January the 8th and sits in an alleyway with his headlights off until her mom leaves to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then Arzola pulls up to her back door, she jumps in the truck with him, and they drive back to Texas. So that brings us to where we're at. The sheriff gets a missing person call from Ohio. When the mom gets home from work, she sees that she's missing. She calls the state police in Ohio. Ohio reaches out to the sheriff. The sheriff and them go to Arzola's house, and luckily, because of the distance between Ohio and Texas, by the time they arrive, they're literally just pulling in the driveway, unloading their stuff. The sheriff and his guys, they're able to arrest Arzola, and they're able to recover the girl. So 2 days later, I show up on scene, and I start with the initial interview of Arzola. And you can see here, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but a couple important parts I wanted to point out. They met on Discord. He messaged her because he saw a profile picture of her on Discord, thought she was attractive. And within 2 weeks, he was requesting nude photographs and videos of her, knowing she was 14. Traveled to Ohio to pick her up. And then, like I said, he was posing as a 16-year-old teenager. Here, I've already covered that. That's with the mother saying that she admitted to me how she was duped with the driver's license. And this is what I wanted to pull of AI awareness. I know I do it all the time. How many times have you gotten on Facebook now, and I see them all the time, it makes my life mad. When you see these videos of like mountain lions stealing dogs and stuff in the backyard, it looks so real. And then at the end, you see Soma on it, or ChatGPT, and you realize, oh, it's AI. Well, these predators are using the same material. Just because you look at your kids' phones and you see who they're talking to, and it looks like a 10-year-old kid, it might not be. It might be, but it might not be. I do the same kind of investigations. You'd be surprised. I can take a picture of myself, and with AI, in 5 minutes, I can look like a 12-year-old girl, and I start fishing for adults online. I do it all the time. So you have to do more than just look at these contacts and say, oh, that's a kid. Because it's probably not, especially online. It's over. Can you pull it back up? I don't know what happened. The next part that I'm going to show y'all, if it works, if not, I can just move on. The next part, she said the same thing. It's kind of eerie how in her talk she spoke about the same things. I have a couple of text messages that I included where Arzola is messaging the victim back and forth, where he's beating it into her brain how important it is for her not to tell anybody, how he'll get caught if they find out. He's given her detailed instructions on how to delete her phone, delete her parents' phone, do all these things. I put these in for no other reason than if you're not vigilant and you don't take an active stance, you will get duped, because they're not only are the suspects trying to dupe you, like she said, they become romantically involved with these people, and they believe that they're in a relationship, and they will dupe you on behalf of the suspect. If you look here in this message, Arzola is just lining out how he lives in Texas, but the mom doesn't know it. How he doesn't want them to find out because they'll take the victim away from him. Here, he's giving her instructions to clear all the stuff off her phone by this weekend. He doesn't want people to find them; their life will be ruined. And basically, he's creating a sense of urgency with her that if she doesn't do all these things, then she's gonna lose what she has. More examples. Big one right here, do you think your mom will let me do that? She says yes, and if you read the rest of the message, it's because he's duped her. Do you think she's gonna ask to see ID or something? That's where that fake ID came in. When she said yes, she's gonna wanna see it, that's when he started using AI to manipulate his driver's license. Here, you need to go to your dad's this weekend and delete all of his stuff. You need to go to your sister's and delete all of her stuff. You need to go to your mom's phone, delete all of her stuff. You need to delete the security cameras. Here's a checklist. Before we leave, double check your sister's phone, clear out your mom's phone. Don't forget to clear the call log this time. Clear it from your dad's contacts. He's giving her step-by-step instructions on how to avoid her mom. Here's a big one too, and I don't know, she could probably echo this. Our life is a movie for real. He's given her that sense of that Romeo and Juliet. Everything's gonna be better when you get with me. It's gonna be romantic. Once we get together, everything in your life's gonna be better. It's gonna solve all problems. Here, delete your stuff. Delete your stuff. I really want this. I hope you want it. You gotta clear all your stuff. These are over the course of weeks where he's reminding her daily to delete everything they talk about. You see here, I know, baby, I'm so happy and excited. That's our victim. It's more of the same. I put this in here also to show you that these people are planning. You can see right here, this was literally saved in his phone when I recovered it. In the notes section of his phone, he had a note. He wasn't trying to not be obvious. It was called runaway plan. Work up, save a little money, change my phone number, change my last name maybe. I don't know if they know my real name. Delete any pictures of myself from the victim's phone. Delete any information about myself. And number 6, get a car. So he probably should put that as number 1. Here's a couple search histories that I put. He's emailing back and forth with I think it was Cora, kind of like Ask Jeeves for the older people in here. But one of the subject lines of the search, I'm 15 and planning on running away in a couple months. What do I take and where do I go? Which state is the best to just run away to and disappear? And this one's the scary one. She said Guadalajara, Piedras Negras. The last search that he had in his phone on the day that he went and got her was the app or the Google Map link to Piedras Negras, Mexico. So that was his plan. He was taking her across the border. Luckily, Sheriff Jones found him before they could go. On June 5th, this is the good part. On June 5th, 2025, he pled guilty to travel with intent to engage in illicit sexual conduct with a minor. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison, federal prison. So he's not going to be doing it anytime soon. I wanted to show this video, and I'm going to end pretty soon. You know, I talked about the mom being able to be duped. You know, a lot of it comes from, you know, we live in the South. I know she's in Ohio, but we have Southern hospitality. You want people to like you. You want people to enjoy your company. I said he spent Christmas up there, and he spent New Year's Day with her, thinking he was 16 years old. The mom told me that night he came over there Christmas Day, and she was letting him see the victim during the day, and a big snowstorm came, so we couldn't leave. So she let him spend the night, and she was so convinced that this man was 16 years old that she went out that night, braved the snow, went to Walmart and bought him Christmas presents because she thought that no 16-year-old kid should have to not have Santa or presents under the Christmas tree. So I'm gonna play this video. This is inside their house in Cincinnati, Ohio. This is on Christmas morning. They're opening presents together. This is and I'm playing this with the permission of the parent. This right here is our child victim. And you're going to see Mr. Arzola poke his head around the corner. I don't know why the sound's not working, but they're talking about how excited they are to be getting presents.
Yours,
There we go.
probably.
They're talking about presents. They're talking about Christmas morning.
This
Mr.
is
Arzola.
the
Chris
thing
is
is
a 16-year-old self. He's a
greatest
26-year-old man opening Christmas presents on Christmas
Turn on
morning
some Christmas music.
with our victim.
It's not on yet.
Yeah, so.
If nothing else, that's why I label this hiding in plain sight. They're chameleons. You know, they do this for a living. They're slimy creatures, and they will take over your kids' lives if you let them. 3 apps I wanted to talk about tonight. Every one of y'all should take a picture of this slide, and you should download it on your kids' devices. NetNanny, Aura, and Bark. I personally recommend Bark. They work well with law enforcement, and I think they have the more advanced app. Bark, you can download on your kids' devices. You can set up screen time allowances where the phone will lock, where they can't most importantly, BARC utilizes AI technology in their application. And when you put that on your kids' phones, it will actively search that phone, and it'll key on keywords, nude, photos, images. It also uses AI. When it sees that sort of material start coming through the phone, it's going to automatically notify you. They download a new app on their phone, it's going to notify you. It's not perfect because they can get burners, but it's better than nothing. And like the sheriff said, and like Lindsay said, if you don't do anything, it's going to happen. This is a QR code. I'm going to bring the sheriff back up here. You can take it from your phone, and so you can read it later. Most of what I've talked about and what Lindsay talked about has to do with the sexual exploitation of children. But just kind of drive the point home on online safety. The sheriff wanted to talk about this case. It's a case that Mount Vernon was involved in, and it was some adults that were being duped by the same sort of tactics. If you want to, can you click on that hyperlink for us?
And just to let you know, I mean, we're talking about kids. He was asking y'all to close your eyes a while ago, and made me think, you know, these gaming platforms and stuff, there's a lot of people in it. You know, I was talking about letting a stranger in your home, you never would do that. Well, I just want you to close your eyes and pretend that your child is over there on that gaming platform, or they're in a room, chat room talking to people, and imagine your house full of strangers. Because that's what you have. You have your child talking to people you've never met, you will never talk to. Most of them. Now, if they're a local child or a local friend, they may be in one of those rooms too. But you don't know who all those other people are in there. And you know, am I trying to scare you? Yes. Because I've seen bad stuff. And I'm gonna talk about this one. I like emotions sometimes. But anyway, it's not just kids. We recently just finished up a case here last spring. I had a guy called the sheriff's office, lives here in Franklin County, and he said, "Man, my house got burglarized." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "What got taken?" You know, I figured he'd say a welder, you know, some money, some jewelry. And he said, "Well, not a whole lot." He said, "But I had $5 million in Bitcoin taken." And I said, "You had what?" He said, "I had $5 million in Bitcoins taken out of my house." I said, "Where was this?" And he said, "That's the funny part." He said, "It was in my house, behind my desk, in a safe that requires a key and a combination." I said, "Where's your wife? Y'all been fighting?" And he said, "No." He said, I don't know." He said, "There's only 2 keys. I know where one's at. She knows where one's at. But you also have to have the combination." I'll be honest with you, I never had the gun or investigated a Bitcoin case. So I picked up the phone and I called the FBI. And I asked them, "Were y'all interested?" They first told me no. Okay. So luckily he calls me back here shortly and he found a transaction number where they tried to sell this Bitcoin on an online Bitcoin site. Luckily, me and Chris Mars got a subpoena real quick, sent that to that company and was able to get those transaction numbers. I called the FBI back, told them, again, this is what we had, and now that I had these transaction numbers. And they said, "Oh, do you really?" And they were kind of interested in it. Well, just the other day, they convicted a 20-year-old ringleader. I think he's in California. Come to find out, the guy that broke into the house out here was a 19-year-old boy that broke into this gentleman's house. But they tracked him, and this all started from a gaming platform. So adults play these games too, and you don't know who you're talking to. They will dupe you, as he's been saying. You don't know who you're talking to. They lie to you. They're not going to tell you the truth. But throughout all this time on this gaming platform, the kid figured out where his key was, what the combination to his lock was, when he was going to be gone. They had gotten into his phone, and they were tracking him on Google Maps, so they knew he wasn't home. Come to find out, not only had he been a victim, but there were 11 or 12 others, and they've taken over $200 million, spent millions of dollars at nightclubs, spent millions of dollars now they're gonna spend time in federal prison. I don't know if the gentleman's gonna get his $5 million back or not. But, it's not just kids, it's adults. So everybody, you have to be careful of who you're talking to, who you're giving information out to. You should never, ever give out any personal information to anyone on the phone, online, anywhere, because you don't know who that person is on the other phone. If you can't, I tell Celeste all the time, she'll get an email on a credit card bill. And I say, did you buy that? She goes, no. I said, well, delete it. And then it'll have a phone number on there. Don't ever call those phone numbers on that screen. Pull out your credit card, it's in your back pocket, and call that number on your credit card. Because if they sent you that email, them people that answer that phone will have a record of it. So we just have to be careful in today's world. And then one other case I want to talk about. Chuck, did you do this case out of Winsboro? The girl that we found just out of Winsboro? I don't know if anybody in here from DPS. This was back in, I think it's 2017. An 80-year-old man made contact with a 14-year-old girl in Arkansas. Unlike Lindsay, she had a rough life. They didn't really live in a home. They lived in a park in a tent. Her dad watched porn all the time. She didn't have much of a life. She was looking for something better. She met this gentleman online. She did not know he was 80-something years old, but by the time it was over with, she knew he was older, but it didn't matter anymore because he'd already befriended her. He gets her and he brings her to a house here in Franklin County. And I get a phone call one day and I said, hey, we're supposed to go to a house over here in your county. We just want you to go with us. There's a girl missing out of Arkansas and she may be in your county. I said, okay. He said, we don't really think she's there, but we're going to go check because this is the description of the gentleman that lives there. I said, okay. So I sent Leo with the FBI out to this house. They hadn't been there 2 seconds. Knocked on the door, told them who they were, and he goes, she's in the bedroom. Because there's kids in here, I don't want to describe what's going on in that house. But she was a 14-year-old and he's treating her like a Jersey gal. She was a strong girl. I've been doing this job since '92. And there's a few things that happen throughout your careers that you never, ever forget. I remember I put that girl in my car with a CPS caseworker sitting in the back, and she was sitting to my right. And when we pulled out on the 37, she realized she was safe. And the cry that girl let out, I'll never forget it. Guys, I'm trying to scare you. There's a lot of predators out there. You have to take control of your kids' phones. You have to be diligent about it. Paisley, I don't know if y'all know, it's Paisley Dan, she's my granddaughter. One day she talked about getting the phone, and I said, I'll tell you what, I said, I'll make sure you get a phone as soon as I get it. I said, because I wanted one as soon as I could get one. And she goes, well, really, when did you get one? I said, 26. Because I just came out with it. But anyway, finish up on that note. Lindsay, if you want to come back up. Those sites that he gave you, Bark and all those, Bark, I went online, I had a whole bunch of stuff here in my pocket. It's full of information. Lindsay even told me and I made that you can buy a phone from there that's through Bark. All my stepkids and their kids, Nicole and Brian gets all of Briley's messages, Nicole gets all of Hannah's messages that come to their phones. Anything that goes into their phone goes to their phone. It's not a hassle. They like it. Briley, one day, some kids were talking on her and to her in the room, and one of them said something a little not appropriate, and Briley, boy, she jumps out, Mom, runs downstairs, let me explain. And so, it's there to protect them. You're not being overbearing, you're being a parent. But that Bark, it's got pages and pages of It's got, you know, kids use icons and whatever you wanna call them, emojis and stuff, and they've got stuff on Bark, it's got different ones on there for, drugs, sexual, emojis, what all of them mean, and they update that a lot on there, so Bark has got, it's full of resources. But anyway, anybody have any questions for these two, or anybody?
I actually had a question about burner phones.
Yes, ma'am?
Just because I've heard about that a lot, I've even heard it directly from other parents I know have issues with that, I've seen online. So we lock down all their phones and we vigilant that way, and then they get burner phones anyway. How are we seeing they usually get them? Is it old phones that friends are finding, lying around the house and they get them on Wi-Fi? I mean, how do you see kids with no jobs getting these burner phones or, typically?
Yeah, good question. So actually, I was telling the sheriff before we started, I'm actually working a case right now. I didn't put it on the PowerPoint because it's like 2 weeks old. I'm currently working a case, a guy in Red River County, he's a 32-year-old male. And as of today, I've identified 3 different juvenile female victims that he was talking to. One's a 12-year-old female out of Missouri, one's a 14-year-old female out of Virginia, and the other one's a 14-year-old female out of West Virginia. I've made contact with all 3 of their parents. Like I said, I've identified them. The 12-year-old from Missouri, I talked to her dad. I asked her why, she has this access to the phone, because when I called him, he said, "Let me guess, there's pictures of her on the internet." That's how he answers the phone call. And I told him that was the case. So since she turned 10, he sees 12 different phones from her, and he hasn't bought her a single one. All 12 of them have been phones that she's acquired at school. And this school is basically, I don't know how they're getting there. These phones are showing up at the school, and these kids are trading them like currency, like you would in jail. They're trading, whatever, vapes and phones. It's currency. They're trading it. And the problem is, once they get that phone, they don't need minutes. All they need is Wi-Fi. They go to Walmart, they go to McDonald's, they go to Starbucks. Any of these applications will run off Wi-Fi only. And that's the problem. But there's things that you can look for that will circumvent that. So like the sheriff said, part of you being able to prevent your kids from being victimized is being a parent, being invested in their life and knowing their routines. If your daughter is chugging along every single day, for the most part, there are exceptions, but if she's chugging along the same way every day, she's doing well in school, she's doing this, and all of a sudden now she only wants to go to her bedroom at night, or she doesn't want to play volleyball anymore, she just wants to hang out at the house, or there's a certain friend's house that she never stayed at before and now she wants to stay there all the time. Those are indications that you have to pick up on that something else is going on. It doesn't mean that they have a burner phone, but it means that they've changed their behaviors. And once you have that behavior change, it's your job as a parent to figure out what's driving that behavior change. Because it could be a phone they got at school that they're taking to the library and getting free Wi-Fi, and they're talking to a boyfriend in Red River County, Texas, from St. Charles, Missouri. So another thing, and I meant to mention this in the presentation. If you have old phones at your house, if you're like us, you get tired of the iPhone, you don't trade it in, you turn it off, you throw it in the drawer, and you leave it alone. Stop doing that, because guess what? That phone still hooks up to Wi-Fi. You go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, they go to that drawer, turn that phone on, they get on the Wi-Fi at the house, they're talking to whoever on the internet, they turn the phone off at 1 o'clock in the morning, put it back in the drawer, and you're none the wiser. So secure them, throw them away, secure them. There's places at Walmart where you can turn them in and get $10 for them. I mean, do something with them. Don't leave them laying around, because that's what they're doing with them. And they're also taking them to school and giving them to other people. So you just have, it's almost a problem that you can't solve, but you can. You just have to take that vested interest in their lives so you can notice that behavior change when it happens.
I got mine from my friend whose parents were less attentive than mine. He shipped a couple to her house, and she got them and brought them to school. And then because it was a pay-as-you-go phone, he just added minutes as he needed to, like from where he was, because he could do that online.
Oh, one more thing to back that up, Cash App. There's applications like that where you don't have to have a bank account tied to them. this guy that I'm talking about in Red River County, one of his victims, the one that was from West Virginia, he was routinely sending her money on Cash App in exchange for videos and images of herself. And so she had set that Cash App up, and he was sending her money. She was taking that money, and then she was putting minutes on a burner phone. So
The good thing is Cash App does monitor those things, and at times, they do actually from time to time send cases that they're concerned about to the Attorney General's office for investigation. It's just, they're so backed up, they can't. So like, I have an ankle monitoring company where I babysit pedophiles until they go get convicted. And I am also a counselor, and during the day, I work at a kids' mental health facility for 5 to 17, where I work closely with kids who are struggling with mental health issues. And so I get to interact with parents a lot on those issues. And I'm also an addiction counselor. In the evening, I see teenagers who are struggling with drug use. And then I also work for a private investigative agency that specializes in human trafficking and kidnapping, mostly parental kidnapping. So I get a lot of experience in like these realms. And I will say, to back you up, like the biggest thing is noticing those behavior changes, because it's so difficult for us to convince parents to get kids into treatment, because they want to say, oh, they're just being kids. That's just how kids are. Or like I'll do an assessment on a kid for substance use, and they're like, I don't even know why we're here. My kid would never use drugs. My kid doesn't even have time to get drugs. Like, we are so busy. And it's simply mental health. Like, one day he just started spinning out, and it's mental health. And the doctor thinks he might have bipolar. Well, those are the drug tests that light up like Christmas trees. You know, the ones where the parents are like, this could never happen. It could always happen. So like, those behavior changes are huge, and a reason to go seek help from professionals, and then listen to those people, because the kids will try to split the team like nothing else. Like, they will try to turn you against the counselor, turn you against the teacher, turn you against law enforcement. And if you believe your kid over people that work in this industry and have seen thousands of these cases, then it's a detriment to your child, right? Because I still, even today, I had a conversation this morning with a mom that said, well, she doesn't really feel comfortable in mental health treatment. I said, well, 2 weeks ago, she tried to kill herself. So, you know, it's not really at this time about what she's comfortable with, because what she's comfortable with is leading to a bad result. Right? So we've got to change this and maybe start being the parent and getting her to somewhere where we know she's going to be successful. But what I find is most of the families, the kids are leading the charge. Most of the families. And I talk to families every day, all day long. So it's easy pickings for these guys right now.
and I could keep talking all night. But make sure your kids are getting professional help if they need it. I know I keep going back to it. The same guy in Weber County, I have a very strong suspicion that the way he's found these 3 kids, all 3 of these kids came from a broken home. All 3 of them had issues with suicidal ideation, and I believe, and all 3 of them had Discord messages on his phone. I believe that all 3 of them, it's not a coincidence. I haven't gotten to talk to him since I've discovered this, but I have a very strong belief that he's probably found a teen suicide chat room on Discord, because of the way he's talking to them, and he's going into these teen suicide chat rooms where these kids initially think they're going to talk about problems that they're having with other teenagers, but he's coming on the backside and he's swooping in and saying, oh, I have a way to fix that. Oh, I know what you're going through. I've already done that. I've been through it. I can help you through it. And you can ask Chuck, because he was with me when I arrested him. One of the first things he said was, you know, I'm just trying to give her guidance. I'm a father figure. And that's truly how he saw himself, you know, at least in the frontal part of his brain. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. And that's why don't rely on the internet to fix your kids. Go get them actual professional help, and get it at the beginning before it's too late, because it's not going to get better. It's just going to snowball.
Maybe you have a question.
Do you have any good resources for, like, when kids or youth get addicted to gaming? And
So-
things like Roblox, or
That's really complicated, because there's way not enough research around tech addiction. But I have done a few interventions. I had one that like sticks in my mind. I went to College Station, and this kid, no one had heard from him for a while, and we went to go intervene. The parents thought it was drugs. And we went in, and there were just pee bottles like lined next to his seat, and he was completely emaciated. and had just been playing video games and was at the point where he had lost his job, he was being kicked out of college, all this stuff. It's crazy. There's not a lot of treatment, especially not for kids. But Dr. K, who owns Omega in Austin, basically leads all of the research that we have currently around tech addiction. And so that's a really good resource for adults. Omega, that's in Austin, is like a PHP with a counseling center attached. As far as residential, there's a couple of places in Utah for adults, but it's really difficult to find resources for kids, which is very unfortunate. And I don't know any resources at all in this area whatsoever for anything. So, but is that something you're struggling
Well,
with?
I just feel like there's a trend, you see it online, you hear about it, that parents,
Yeah.
the kids are getting really hooked on these games.
Well, they're all going to get hooked on it, right? Because what we know is that watching screens gives us the same amount of dopamine as cocaine, but we're consistently getting that. So like anybody who has it, I mean, we're all hooked to our screens, right? Like when my cell phone isn't with me, I mean, it's not with me right now, but I know it's right there. When my cell phone isn't with me, I panic. But that's because I'm getting so much dopamine. And when your brain gets that much dopamine, you create additional receptor sites. So things that are normally pleasurable become less pleasurable unless you pair them with something that gives you enough dopamine. And we're getting these kids screens in school all day, and then they're coming home and they're having screens. One thing I started doing with my son is meditation at the end of the day. I did it a lot more whenever he was having some school issues to kind of satiate that whole thing. And he had straight up dopamine withdrawal. Like he was flopping like a fish and crying. And even now, like if he doesn't have access to video games at some point, he's gonna have a problem, right? It's like the screens are the issue. It's not, if you're predisposed to addiction, obviously you're gonna have more of an issue with that, but I think it's across the board. I don't know any families that don't have issues with that right now, right? But
And the only thing I was gonna add to it is, you know, one, if you're the parent and your child's addicted to it, you're in a really good position because you pay the bills and you own the phone. So one, you can turn it off, you can unplug that Xbox. But once you unplug it, like she said, if they are chemically addicted to something, there is gonna be withdrawals post-unplug. And from what I've seen, most of the therapy for kids is gonna be given by just, I don't wanna say a regular therapist, but any child therapist can probably fill that role because the addiction's the same, whether it's a laptop or it's drugs or it's alcohol, the addiction's the same, it's just the mode, it's just the item that you're addicted to. So if you have a child addiction therapist, you know, she may specialize in drugs, but she's gonna be able to apply the same techniques to gaming. It's just a different drug.
kind of. So like I specialize in drugs and sex addiction, but not everybody can treat sex addiction, because although it is an addiction. So like the process addictions are treated slightly differently. I don't know enough, I wouldn't feel safe treating somebody that had tech addiction, just because I don't know, that's a whole different, because you have to have access to screens. So like that's kind of more like eating disorders than it is like drug addiction, where we can go abstinence-based. I would say, I mean, having a play therapist is good because you want to learn like that emotional regulation piece, impulse control, because all those things are going to be affected. I mean, we already don't have access to the frontal lobe when we're that age, you know, so we're very much operating from our lizard brain, and then we're looking at activating that amygdala, that pleasure center all the time and building those receptor sites. I mean, we've created a monster at this point, right? Like, that's why we see, like, when we pull them away from the screens, the big reactions, because it feels like a threat, right? Whenever you're taking away the thing that I need to feel okay, now you threaten my life, you know, and that's a big crime. It's pretty bad. But I would look up Dr. K with Omega, and he has a lot of research around tech addiction. Basically what we have right now is just.
I have a question.
While I've been sitting here talking, that's what I've been thinking. You know, I'll say I'm computer security and I'm not saying go grab your kids and yank everything away from them. But somebody may be at that point that they need to do that and give them counsel. I'm hoping that everybody in this room is to the point that they can go home with their kids, your son, and sit down and talk to them and maybe right now just set up boundaries. This is phone time, or iPad time. And this is time we're going to go outside and play. Or this is time, give them alternatives for family. We don't allow phones at the table. We don't allow phones at the bedroom. They have to stay in the living room. They can talk to them, they can talk to them in front of us. But you can tell when they're sitting over there, what are you doing? You know, so I'm hoping that everybody here is to the point that they can sit down and come up with a family plan and say, okay, and that means you too, because you know, she's talking about us being a teacher phone. We're not putting them down and give them the teaching that they need. And try that. Now, you know, but we don't, my grandkids, I have Minecraft on my PlayStation, on my team. It's not a good, we don't have communications on. But I said, we sit in there and I play with them, you know, give them hard times when they get killed and, you know, tell them they're doing it wrong, you know, razz them and stuff. So I don't just ignore them, I stand there and I do that with them. And so, but then we do that for a while, but then when we say stop, they know we're turning it off and we're gonna go outside and go fishing. We're gonna do stuff that's non-electronic. I'm hoping that families move more like that, and then as your child matures and they start getting more away from your presence, that you start having those conversations about, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you start having those conversations about the strangers and the dangers and all that stuff.
I think obviously, like, it's whatever you're comfortable with as a parent. For me, like, I have an 8-year-old, and I think I said he was 7 in there, but he just turned 8 and I didn't change my speed. But he's 8 now, and he doesn't know, like, the details of what's happened to me, obviously, because those are unnecessary to get my point across. Like, I try not to share with him inappropriate details that are unnecessary to the plot, right? That of what I'm trying to get across to him, but he does know they're unsafe people. He does know, he is familiar with the word pedophile. He is aware that there are people out there that don't have his best intentions, the best intentions for him, and that they would hurt him, but that's not everybody, and that there are essentially things that he should look out for. Like, I got there's some body books that we got to talk about, like, what's appropriate touching and what's not. Because it goes both ways too, like teaching him, like, okay, yeah, you just went by and bopped that girl in the head in class, and even though you didn't hurt her, that wasn't appropriate. Like, we're already learning those things. So on that same page, like, no one should be touching you in a way that makes you uncomfortable, and teaching him how to kind of tell me that. So we work on those things, like, he's aware enough. And when I don't let him go to a lot of people's houses, like summer parties, that's not happening. But you know, when he does go hang out with friends, even if it's just abuela, you know, the grandmother that's there with the kid, when he comes back, you know, did anybody go to the bathroom with you while you were there? Did any part of your clothes come off while you were there? Like, just little questions that are not like too obvious for what I'm fishing for, that I'm just trying to see, like, oh, like, right, like, I'm trying to get answers as to, like, is that a safe person? If they're not, then that's something for us to explore. Thankfully, we haven't had that issue so far with him, but I'm pretty forward about the fact that the world isn't always safe, and that people aren't always going to be great, and to kind of approach with caution when you're building your relationships, and to be aware of what you're looking for to know if someone's safe or not. Like, we work on that a lot.
If you have these conversations that you're saying as we're coming up, that becomes a natural thing when they come home or come back into the house, whether it be your son or your daughter, that it's not like you're quizzing them, why are you asking those questions? That's just your concerned parent. You know, you're just looking out for their safety and stuff. So that becomes a natural thing coming in, to the point that kids will come home and you don't ask questions and say, this is
one thing before we move on, McCoy. I said it earlier, make sure if they need help, get professional help, and don't let them turn to the internet, because that's where the predators are. Same way with this, know your child, like she said, know what level they can handle, and then give that information to them, because if you don't, they're gonna search it out somewhere else. And I can tell you from working these types of investigation, they're gonna type a key word or two with the intention of getting a question answered, and the internet, because it's a dark hole, is gonna feed them the very thing that you don't want them to see. Because it might not be the first button and it might not be the second, but halfway down that page or in the images or the video links, it's gonna be the exact thing you don't want them to see. So don't withhold information from them because you think that it's gonna root them, because they're gonna have those questions and they're gonna go get an answer somewhere. And you would prefer them to get the answer from you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just something, we got a son, and we don't let him do sleepovers or anything like that. I grew up doing sleepovers, my wife did too. What is an age where it would be appropriate for that? You know, I hate to.
Well, I can tell you, I mean, that's a question I cannot answer for you. My daughter, she has 2 houses that we let her go to, and that's it. And my son, he hasn't found one yet that I would let him go to, just because I don't know any of their parents well enough. So my daughter has 2 houses, and those 2 houses that she's allowed to go to, they both come to my house, and that's it. She knows you're not, if there's so-and-so has a birthday party, having a sleepover, nope, don't know. And it's just non-negotiable. And I can't tell you how you get to that level of trust with those parents. That's just something you gotta answer for yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. Because I can tell you that we only get so many chances to raise our kids, and don't mess up just because you didn't want to be the mean parent that didn't let them go to the sleepover.
So I'll kind of like edit so my son has done sleepovers, but he doesn't go, like, I've slept over with him at someone else's house, and they have fun and everything, but we all sleep in the living room. Like, one time I rented out a Airbnb in Crystal Cove. This was everybody's first sleepover, and we all stayed at the Airbnb. We all slept in the main room, and we did, that was kind of a fun special thing, because I'm trying to make sure he still has those experiences. But I have close enough relationships with his friends' families that I'll just say, hey, we're doing a sleepover, I'm gonna stay too, and I'll just stay at the house it's me and the other parents, and that gives us more adults in the house too. And then he has friends that will come sleep over at my house with just me there, which is fine, because like I know that I'm safe, but and I guess they do too. But so he still gets that experience, and like when we do sleepovers, like I'm making sure that they're getting surprise visits, and if they're in the room and the door's open and we're good to go, or there's some level of supervision, because I know when I did sleepovers as a kid, like it was go in the basement, and then like we didn't hear from parents until sometimes a concerning amount of time, like 24 hours or more. So but also I know like unsafe things happen during those times too, right? Like we all have stories, but that's the goal, is to not allow those really long private time is not good for people with their frontal lobes not working.
Can I say something on that too? Sorry,
Go ahead.
they're not trying to take over. I'm thankful because I think the no sleepover thing has become pretty common. It's just kind of being the day and age that this is. So lateovers have become a thing, and like my son knows, like I will stay up as late as I need to where when your kids go to, or your friends go to sleep, that's when I will come get you. And thankfully it's not that. But I do think that especially in our community, that's not as crazy of a thing as it would have been in the 90s. So.
You mentioned a couple phone services on there. Have you had any experience with Gap? Wireless? I'm just curious. It's one we're having problems with. We're trying to find a different one. I just didn't know if you had experience with that.
I have to Google it because I can't remember what it's called right now. But some of our family members, it's not Gap, but they have a cell phone service, and it's probably similar to Mark's. But basically, it supplies them with a phone it looks like a smartphone, so they're not, the uncool kid with a flip phone, but it doesn't do anything. And the owner of the phone, the parent, can input phone numbers in it, and that phone can only text and call, say, the 10 numbers that mom puts in it. And it can only receive text from the 10 calls.
Their customer service is horrible.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about Gap, but
That used to be Cricket. Or no, Firefly. You remember the little blue Firefly?
It's time for a new phone. So
Nobody
that's
else
why
have
we're
that?
asking.
Yes, I want to ask a question for, I know some people will be going for a little while before you leave. How many, with the raise of hands, how many are glad to come tonight? How many would suggest this to someone else to come and listen to it? Okay, because I'm hoping that I can call these two again in the future. Because I just feel like there's a lot of information that people need to get. Again, I don't want you to go out and rip these phones away from your kids, I just want you to be engaged with your kids. And it be a family effort to make sure they're safe.
Gap was thought about.
I think that's the best way to approach this issue.
As a grandparent, an older person that's not into all this technology stuff, when our grandkids come over, when they were little, they, my phone to play games, and I said, games is not playing no games. And they just quit asking,
They quit up, that's right.
you know, it was okay. So, it made me feel okay that I didn't have games on my phone, because they just knew it. And then if they come over now, which they love to watch TV, go watch YouTube or whatever, we just want to put the ball and then we said, okay, off TV, we're going outside.
That's,
And so, because we don't know all this technology, I don't even know some of the terms y'all use. And
that's why we think this is important, that's why we think this is
It
important.
scares me to death, but, but okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey Sheriff, so there's millions of social media apps out there on the Play Store, on iTunes, iCloud, whatever, and there's so many more every day being available.
Yes.
We're never gonna have a full understanding of every app out there, and just like she said, try your best. Try your best to stay in tune with those social media apps that are out there, the popular ones. If you'll notice Snapchat, the logo is a ghost, right? And the whole intent there is anonymity. They sell the product as being anonymous, being hidden, being a ghost, right? So that's Snapchat. So just listen to the children, listen to them. Try to learn from the kids. I'll be honest, they're the smartest ones sometimes when it comes to that. Let them tell you what the new fad is. And just, hey, tell me more about it. You know, just dig into those questions with those social media apps.
And they'll tell you about most of them, but don't be afraid to pick up your child's phone and say, let's look at it. And if there's an icon you don't know, then you need to figure out what that is. Because it may be there's a chat room that's popped up overnight that nobody's known about or heard about. So you might stay engaged in what they're doing and stay involved and ask questions and talk to them and open up that communication between you all.
Yeah.
And, you know, like our grandkids come, they don't use our iPads. Because I've got YouTube, I've got different things on there that we watch, but they can't watch at home. So if they want to have an iPad, they bring theirs with them and they have only what they can do on there. And so they would limit that time too. But yeah, just being, the kids will tell you, hey, you need to quit using that. You need to start using this. You know, that's old people stuff. You know, but then at the end, don't be afraid to pick up your child's phone or get software or an app on the phones, because there's, just like Clark and others, there's others out there other than what we mentioned. But get that and put them on your phones to where you're getting what they get. And that doesn't mean that it's not going to get the burner phone or circumventing that, but they know you're engaged, and I guarantee they'll appreciate you being engaged more than not being engaged.
And feeling like they can communicate with
Yes.
you. Because I think that was the biggest thing, because I had a mom who, like I said, drug tested me. She had the recording stuff on my computer where she got alerts if something was, if keywords were put in. My text messages popped up in real time on her computer at work. My phone calls were all recorded. I had a motion detector outside my bedroom door. I had it was like a military lockdown kind of situation. And yet it still happened. And I didn't feel comfortable communicating things. I didn't know that anything was wrong or if anything was happening that was wrong. Because I was very much taught like, oh, just do the right thing, just make good grades. If you're just a good kid, you know what I mean? And everything was there's nothing wrong in the world, there's nothing wrong with you, as long as if you hit this bar. everything's okay. So the moment that something bad came into my life, I couldn't recognize it. I had no one to talk to about it. And when I started feeling like I was a bad kid, hell no, I was not gonna tell my mom. Right? Because then I would have been a failure at life, you know? So just making it a safe place to talk and participating, yeah. Like my son wants to be a YouTuber, and so we stream on Twitch, but he's not on video. But I play with him. Like they all, like when we go on the stream, the kids that come on, they go, hey mom. And then, but the sad part is in the stream the whole time, it's like, I wish my mom would play games with me. Like, that's so cool that your mom will actually play with you, you know? So it's like, but it's like not one person, not one kid that's watching. Like, all these kids that are watching are like, man, I wish I had a mom that would play with me. And it's like, geez, it's like terrifying. But just being engaged and being part of it, I think can make a big difference.
Mr. Ricky, I know everybody's ready to go, but I'm Ashley Bates, I'm the middle school principal. And I will tell you, the majority of the trauma that we see at the middle school starts with electronics. And no, we don't have cell phones. I'm loving it. You would not believe the conversations we are seeing our kids have in the classrooms, in the hallways, because there's no cell phones. But I would say 90 to 95% of the drama that we have between kids, it starts with something that someone texted on the night before, or over Christmas break, or over things. It's not happening at school. It is some. There's some that are still sneaky. But it's not. It's mostly happening away from. But it's still cell phones and electronics. I do know that Ms. Taryn, she's our IT director. I know there's some things I want her to share with you guys too about what's going on at school. Because we are really trying to limit that access, but they are good. It's good. They are way smarter than we are. And there's things that we're learning daily about things that kids are getting around, doing. But like I said, the majority of the issues, the arguing, the fighting, this back and forth, it's technology based.
Mark also screens your kids' phones for conversations related to bullying. Just FYI.
I'm gonna leave y'all with her. And then, but I wanna thank y'all for coming. Tell folks that this went well. I appreciate y'all asking questions, because that kind of gives us an idea. This is the first time we're doing this, all three together. That kind of gives us a way to tailor this, maybe better to approach the next crowd. I'm not a Facebook guy, but go in there and like where I posted this and put any comments on there. That way, whenever we try to do this again, it'll probably have to post a year at a time, but I am going to do this a couple more times. So, again, thank y'all.
Thanks for letting me talk. I've got to be in Fort Worth for a conference I go to in the morning, so I'm going to drive to Fort Worth. Thank you.
I'm not going to take up much time. I'm Taryn Duncan. I'm the technology director for Mount Vernon ISD. When you leave here, you'll see on the table a little how-to sheet. It kind of just piggybacks off what they were talking about. Just some how-tos on to limit your iPhones and your Androids. I do this for my son's phone. He can't text a number that's not saved. It comes up and it blocks it. If he wants to download an app, it has to be approved by me. And then you have to go to his phone and type in a password. So it's 2 steps of security before they can get an app on their phone. And so I just went through and did step-by-step instructions for each thing that you could limit for free on the phones to kind of just secure them and help you know what's going on. As far as like us at the school, we have 3 filters, and these kids are so smart that even on their devices they use here, they find a way each day to get around all those filters. So I have an extra filter that catches that, and then it just continues on. So for example, they've defeated me in the sense of you can't have your cell phone, but they have their cell phone in their pocket while they're at school, and they turn their hotspots on. And they connect their devices to their hotspots, and then they're able to not do what they want because they still are on a school device that's managed, but they can like download games and not do their schoolwork. So we have this thing called managed methods, and it catches all of that. And so we were able to catch that. We've worked with the company to kind of solve that. And the teachers are aware now that, if their phone's in their pocket, to make sure their phone is turned off, so they're not getting around what we have in place to make sure that they're doing their schoolwork here. Another example, this is a new one, but the kids did figure out what HTML files were, which is just basically retyping code and you can get to whatever you want. They weren't doing anything harmful, but they found every movie, every game, everything fun under the sun that, they just stuck out through the school day. They tried to sell it to their friends. And so when the filter caught it, we were able, to say, hey, you can't do this, teach them the right ways of doing it. But kids are smart, and we have to stay on them, and we have to constantly monitor here to make sure that they're not doing things they're not supposed to. So another resource, and this is kind of new, but everybody that has internet at home, almost every single internet provider provides a web filter that can block dangerous content while your kids are connected to your internet at home. And I don't know too much on this. You call your internet provider. For me, I have, I don't forgot what I have. I believe it's Extreme. And then you tell them that you would like this filter put onto your internet. And that way, when they're watching TV in their rooms or they're connected to their phones watching YouTube, it's blocking that dangerous content for you. And it's just another added feature that you're already paying for. And then everything on this sheet is also free. So that's all. Ashley, did I cover everything?
Now, the biggest thing that we're seeing a lot of is the texting back and forth and the secret, whatever. But a lot of our kids are sleeping, and that's because they're staying up and they're gaming all night long. And they'll say they wait until parents go to sleep. So, and they literally will game all night long. And that we see a lot of that in the school, for sure.
So, and the teachers have the ability in the classrooms to filter what they want to have in their classrooms as well. So it's just an added form of security to make sure kids are safe online here.
Smartwatches now?
Say it one more time.
What about the smartwatches now where you can receive text messages and phone calls?
I'm pretty sure they cannot wear them. I'll confirm. No, ma'am, they cannot wear them here. Any more questions for me? All right, all of these how-tos are on the table outside when you guys leave. Thank you guys so much.